Alright, let's start with the 2021 paper 2 e-maths. Okay, again for this paper I cannot provide you with a soft copy of the question. I need you to find the soft copy yourself. You can find it in the internet. I suggest that you look around in the Reddit. Usually there will always be one that share the soft copy of the materials. Otherwise, you can purchase the book from the TYS from your popular bookshop. Okay, most of the time you can find it there. Alright, anyway, let's start the question. First question is a solving of an inequality. So question 1a, 2x plus by 5 over 2 greater than 1 minus 4x. You can multiply both sides by 2, so then you got 2x plus 5 greater than 2 minus 8x. Move the x together on the same side, so then you got 10x greater than 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. Divide the 10 away and you'll get negative 3 over 10. Very nice. Okay, don't change the inequality. You only change the sign of the inequality if you divide or multiply by a negative sign. Okay. Anyway, the next question. A equals 2n bracket n minus by 3k. You need to find the value of a when they are giving you a few values of the n and k. So the n is actually half. And then the k is negative 1.2. Okay. Oh yes, n is half. So I just put it down like this. This will cancel each other, so you are left with half minus by double negative, so it's a plus. 3 times 1.2 is 3.6. So you got 0.5 plus by 3.6, and that will be 4.1. Okay, and then for the B part 2, the question is express k in terms of a and n. Okay, making the subject. Now, we start with this equation. I need the k to be the subject, so I need to try to make it the sole numbers, alphabet on one of the side. I'll start by dividing the 2n to the other side. So then I'm left with only n minus 3k. And then I will minus the n to the other side. So to speak, I got this fraction minus by n equals negative 3k. And finally, I will divide everything by negative 3. Okay, and therefore the first fraction will become negative a over 6n. And the second one will be n over 3 in a positive as well. Okay, you can leave your answer like this, and there are actually many ways you can leave answer for this question lah. Okay, yeah, anyway, then the next is question C. Solve the equation. You have a fraction like this. Give your solutions into 2 decimal places. Okay, well, this is just about solving the fraction. I'll make the same denominator for both sides. The first fraction need to multiply with 2x plus 1, whereas the second fraction multiplied by x minus 4. Then together, they have the same denominator like this. Alright, the next thing to do is to cross multiply. I can solve the numerator also meanwhile. So I multiply the brackets first. 3x times 2x plus 1. That will give me 6x squared plus 3x. And then the next is 5x minus 20. I cross multiply the number here. Simplify everything here and also expand. I'll get 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. Okay, I skip a little bit of the method to make it shorter. Yes, like this. Put them together on the same side. So you have 4x squared plus by 15x minus by 20 plus 4. So it will be minus 16. Okay. Now I'm going to use the formula of ABC. Okay. This formula is on the front page of the O level. So I think it's very hard that you do not know about this formula. So x is negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 multiplied by a multiplied by c, divided by 2 times a. Yeah, just need to press your calculator here and you're gonna get 2 answers. The first one is 0.87 corrected to 2 dp, and likewise the other answer is negative 4.62 corrected into 2 dp as well. And that's for question 1. Okay, all of the algebra questions come out. Next, question 2a. The value of fuels and lubricants exported in Singapore was a certain amount of million. Make it into 3SF. So you have 90,000 and 182 million. Okay. Now million actually is the same as, let me just copy this. Million is the same thing as multiply by 6 amounts of zeros. or that is you multiply it by 10 power of 6. Alright, and then making it into standard form. Therefore, I need to make it into 9.018 and 2. Well, that means to say that you are actually taking off 4 digits from the 90,000s. Alright, therefore you're going to increase the 10 by 4 amounts, so you're gonna get 10 power of 10. Yes, and that's the answer for A. For B, the value of exported food exported is certain million. The value of, okay, so this is like some value of food from 2012 and 2017. There's an increase. So it was 6,230 million, and then a few years later it becomes 8,007 million. You need to find the percentage increase, and the percentage increase is basically looking for the difference divided by the original. Now the difference between 8,007 and 6,230 divided by the original amount, times it by 100%. Yeah, use calculator, you can correct this into 3SF or 1 dp. In any case, you should end up with 28.5%. Okay, next question C. The value of machinery and equipment exported from Singapore was some amount. This had increased by 9.3% in 2017. So you're gonna increase it by 9.3%. Well, you take the original value, then you multiply by the 100 plus by 9.3, meaning to say you put 109.3%. Okay, don't just multiply by 9.3%, that would be wrong. This will give you, this is a dollar amount by the way, somewhere around 2.51. Okay, well, we are still actually multiplying it with 10 power of 11, so yeah, I just need to copy down that number. Okay, and question D. Okay, there is 2012 to 2017, there is actually a decrease of 6.1% import goods. Okay, so let's see between the two timelines. The 2017 is 1.8 multiplied by 10 power of 10, and let's say this one is actually X amount. Okay, there is a drop of 6.1%. Okay, drop by 6.1%. Alright, in that case, I can tell that you take the X, which is the 2012 value, and then you multiply it with the percentage. Okay, 100 minus by 6.1%, like this. Okay, and this is equals to 1.8 times by 10 power of 10. Yeah, okay, so that will be 93.9 x 93.9. okay, 100 lah, over 100. Okay, I think it's easier to write it down like this. Yeah, and then the only thing that you need to do, okay, maybe I use another alphabet lah, A. Let's just say A, like this. So to find out the value of A, you just need to divide the 93.9 over 100 to the other side. Calculate it, and you're gonna get 1.92 times by 10 power of 10. Okay, corrected to 3SF as well. And yeah, that should be the end of the standard form question. Wait, actually there is still question C. Okay, there's a person that buys a camera for certain amount. She pays a GST of 7% when she returns to Singapore. The exchange rate is $1 for 80.4 yen. Find out the amount that she needs to spend for the GST. Okay, let's see here for question E. So there is a camera worth 155,000 yen. Okay, and then the conversion is that for every $1 you'll have 80.4 of yen. Okay, so I'll see this as a ratio, conversion ratio, and I want to have 155,000 yen from 80.4 yen. That is by multiplying 155,000 over 80.4. So the way the ratio works is you multiply by the same amount over here. Okay, and that will be 1927.86 dollar. 1927 dollars and 86 cents. Okay, so this is the amount that you need to get a 7% out of it. Okay, so take this amount, multiply it by 7% for the GST, and that will be 134.9. Okay, 0.95. 0.95, yes, like this. Okay, that should be the GST tax that she actually has to pay when she return to Singapore. Okay, yeah, but then the question is asking you to find out the total amount that Chow actually spent on the camera, including the GST. So to speak, take this number, add with the 1927. Okay, so you plus everything together, you're gonna get total of 2062.81. Okay, to the nearest dollar, then it's a 2063. Yeah, we have to spell the number correctly. Okay, anyway, that should be it for the question about money. Next is question 3. Alright, this is actually some kind of a picture. Okay, I think I have to draw it, otherwise it will be very difficult for you to actually understand my explanation. Okay, like this. Is it actually the midpoint? No, I don't think so. Okay, this one I hope I didn't do actually extremely wrong. Just estimate, rough estimate. Okay, so yeah, this is the thing. There is a special area over here in the middle part. Okay, the area of the rectangle is 80 cm square, the entire area. There's two triangles that actually are removed, PAQ and RCS, and then the rest of the length are actually equal. Okay, so DP equals to QB equals to BR equals to DS. 4 cm. Okay, I just need to put 4 over here actually. Alright, okay. AD is X. What is AD? AD is the entire thing. Okay, AD is the entire width. Meaning to say, I can tell that, okay, let me use a green color. That AP is X minus 4. Okay, because the entire AD is X unit. So AP must be X minus 4. And these two triangles are actually supposed to be the same because the amount of that is actually removed are equal on the every side. So to speak, the two triangles you see here must be congruent. Okay, I can say that RC is X minus 4 as well. Okay, then the question asks you to find out the length of AQ. Interesting. Okay, I think we are going to use the fact that the area is actually 80. Now this 80 cm square is length times by width. The width is 4 plus by, okay, the width is X lah, because it's AD, right? The width is AD. And then the length is just 4 plus by, you know what, let's call a name here. Let's call it A here. The length is A. Yeah, for now, let's just put another algebra. 4 plus A over here. Alright. Okay. I want to find the value of A. I'll divide the X away. So I got 4 plus A here. And then minus the 4 to the side. Like this. Okay, that's the length of A. Or that is the length of AQ. The one that you are actually looking for. The length of AQ in terms of X. Okay, a little bit confusing, but if you think carefully, you should get the answer. Alright. Then part B, show that the shaded area is blah blah blah. Okay, you want to find the shaded area. Well, it's just 80 minus by the two triangle. There are two triangles, so it's 2 times by half times by base times by height. Okay, and of course I'm not using A anymore because I know that the A is actually 80 over X minus 4. Okay, this is the area of the shaded. So let's just continue to expand this. The 80 will cancel each other, leaving us with 320 over x plus 4x minus 16. And that should be that. Okay. Next question, 3C. Continuation, but no, I don't think it's continuation. It's like a new stuff. Complete the table of the values for, oh, actually it's the same thing. They actually name this area as Y, the shaded area. Okay, then there's actually a complete the table. Basically, they're giving you a table where there is actually one thing that's missing here. X is 18, then they don't tell you the value of the Y. Okay, the rest of them are actually given the value. So yeah, we have to fill the gaps there. So to find the value of Y during the X to be 18, so I just need to, well, practically substitute 18 on the X. Press calculator, you'll get 73.7777. Just put 73.7. Okay, 3SF 1 dp, good enough. And then on the grid, draw the graph. Okay, let's draw the graph. This is just like, well, estimate. I can't really draw it nicely without any preparation, and we just want to discuss about the answer. So, well, let's just draw it. Like, maybe like this, somewhat like this. Okay, somewhat like this. The intersection here is at 80. Okay, yeah, you have the table, by the way, in the paper, so the drawing should be quite easy. The drawing here is from x equals to 4. So I put the 4 here until x equals 20. Let's just say that 20 is over there. Yeah. Next, part E. Use the graph to find the greatest value of x when the shaded area equals to 60. Okay, I'm going to use the green color for question E, so you know the additional picture that I'm gonna do here. Okay, now when the area is 60, you see that the area is actually y. Okay, because y that we got earlier represent the shaded area. X is actually the length of the, the length of AD just now, right? It's like, think of it like the length of the piece of the rectangle, right? In any case, they mentioned that the area equals 60. So that means y equals 60 in the picture. Okay, let's just say that the 60 is actually here. I just need to put a straight line, horizontal, over there. You will intersect the graph at two locations, over here and over here. Your job is to find out what is the corresponding value of x for that number. Okay, you'll roughly get around 6.4 and also 12.6, something like that. Okay, for both of the value there. Yeah, so this means to say that to get the area of 60, you need either x to be 6.4 or x to be 12.6. Okay, that's what the question wants to see. Explain how the graph shows that the shaded area cannot be equal to 50. Okay, that actually is very simple. Now, okay, I just need to comment on the lowest point of the location, because you see that the vertical location of the graph corresponds to the area of the shaded part. And the lowest part of the graph is actually somewhere when the y is actually 55. Okay? Meaning to say, you want to reach 50 cm square for the area, well, too bad the graph, it doesn't even actually reach there. Okay, so tell them that the minimum point of this graph is somewhere around x equals to like 8.99 units, something like that. Okay, and the area is 55, that is the y, which is 55. So that is the minimum point, meaning to say the y cannot be lower than that. Hence the area is actually no way can be lower than 55. Okay. Yes, anyway, next question, 4. Okay, this is actually a huge picture, so, well, you can skip ahead on my video. I'm going to draw a huge thing, so it's gonna take some time. Okay, I'm only drawing the side view. I know that the picture is actually a 3-dimension picture. Okay, but you know, don't have time to draw a 3-dimension. It's too difficult. I'll just draw side view that is like triangle, square, and semicircle. As a matter of fact, it's actually cone. Okay, cone, cylinder, and hemisphere. Yeah. Anyways, the length here is actually y. And then the radius here is 3x. The height here is 2x. And then, well, this is also 3x lah. Okay, they are actually sharing the same radius throughout the figure. Next, the question asks you to find the volume of the cone is twice of the hemisphere. So, part A, let's look for the volume of the cone, which is 1/3 pi r square height. And if you simplify everything, you're gonna get 3 pi x square y. The volume of hemisphere, 4/3 divided by 2, so it's 2/3 because you are looking for hemisphere, not a full sphere. Pi r cube. So you're gonna get 18 pi x cube. The question says the volume of the cone is twice of the hemisphere. So if I want to put an equation between them, I need to take the hemisphere volume multiplied by 2, like this. So then I got 36 pi x cube, 3 pi x square y. And then let the cancellation begin. Pi and pi cancel. X square and x cube cancel. Alright, then I'll divide the 3 to the other side. I got 12x. Yeah, that's it. Shown already. They just ask you to show this. Next, the total surface area is 300. Find out the height of the solid. So the total height, you need to find it given the surface area. Okay, so let's find the surface area one by one. Surface area SA of the cone. I'm only looking for the outer part, so it's pi RL only. So I got pi multiplied by 3x being the radius. Now multiply by L. Well, you see L is actually here, the slant height. You can find the value of L by doing Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so let me add here. L square equals to y square plus by 3x bracket square. Alright, and I want the L only, so it's just a square root of y square plus 9x square. Okay, that will be quite terrible, but you know what, for now I think we can just leave it like that for the moment. Okay. Oh wait, I just remembered that earlier we got the y is actually 12x, huh? I think that will be able to make us a little bit easier to look at this question. So I'll make everything into 3x. Y square is therefore 144x square. 3 pi x square root of 144 plus by 9. What is 144 plus by 9? I got 153. Okay, now mind that the x square inside the square root can be rooted, so to speak. I can write it down like this. Yeah, so then I got 3 pi x square multiplied by root of 153. Okay, for those people who are taking A Maths, you are able to simplify this 153 a little bit further. However, since this paper is for E Maths, I will not simplify the square root. Okay, you should be fine just leaving your answer like this for now. Anyway, surface area of the cylinder, just the outer part, so it's a 2 pi RH. Should be quite easy. 2 times by pi, the radius is 3x, the height is 2x. I got 12 pi x square. And the surface area of the hemisphere, 2 pi r square. So I got 2 times pi times by 3x bracket square. 18 pi x square. Okay, so they say that the total area is 300. I'm going to sum everything here. That's a lot of things. Equate to 300. Wow, talk about having a horrible question. You know, everything is divisible by 3 and also divisible by pi. Okay, I'm going to throw everything away there. Divide by 3 pi on everything. So on the right hand side, I got 100 over pi. Then I'll get root of 153x squared plus by divide by 3 pi. I got 4x squared then. And this one should be 6x squared. Okay. I hope I didn't do anything wrong. Let me just give a quick check. Yeah, shouldn't be anything wrong, I believe. But if you spot something wrong, leave a comment below. Yeah. So that's it. I just need to divide not divide. I need to factorize it first. So root of 153 plus by 10 in a bracket equals to 100 over pi. And therefore, I can get the x squared as the subject. Damn, that is still ugly though. I think this question is really, I don't know. Square root also of the whole thing. I even forget what we are actually looking for, but I believe we are looking for x. No, they are actually looking for h, the height of the solid. So we got the value of x and we need to find the height of the solid. Now the height of the solid here, as you can see, let's count it, is y plus by 2x, okay, 2x for the cylinder. And then the hemisphere, the height is actually the radius. So to speak is y plus 5x. And don't forget that y is actually 12x. I can say is 12x plus 5x, totaling into 17x. Okay, so back to the question. Since the height is 17x, so I got height equals to 17 multiplied by the x. I just need to take care of this and move it there. Done. Horrible. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I can press calculator for this actually. Let's just try to key in the calculator here. I'm curious what the number looks like. I got 20.3. Alright, like that. Wow. Next, question 5. The coordinates of point A is 5,5. Line of B passed through A and has a gradient. Show that the line of B is that. So, you have the gradient. So I'll just write down like this. And then you have a point of 5,5. X equals 5, y equals 5. Sub the number in. You'll have 5 equals negative 10 over 9 plus by c. Multiply everything by 9, so I got 45 equals negative 10 plus by 5 plus by 9c. So that 9c, you know what, I don't need to do that. I just need to find the value of c for now. So it's gonna be horrible, but well, I got 55 over 9. Hence, you have y equals negative 2 over 9x plus 55 over 9 times everything by 9. And that's that. Part B. The equation of the line Q is this. Find the coordinates of the point of intersection on the line P and the line Q. Okay, so I'm going to do a simultaneous equation here. The first equation being this answer from the previous part. The second is the 3y equals 4x minus 26. Now this thing I will multiply by 3. Okay, and then I'm going to do substitution. Since they have 9y here and 9y there, I'm going to substitute them next to each other. So then negative 2x plus 55 equals 12x minus 78. So that x is 19 over 2. Okay, hence to find out the value of y, I just need to sub in the x value to whichever equation that you want. okay, the first or the second. You're gonna get the answer to be 4. Okay, hence the coordinate is 9/2, 4. Okay, again you can substitute the x value here, or you can substitute the x value over here, or over here also can, whichever you like. Okay, you will do the job. Next, part C. The line P intersects the y-axis at point B, and blah blah blah, explain why the trapezium state the distance between okay, wow, that's actually okay, maybe we have to draw this graph, maybe just illustration, otherwise it's very difficult to actually proceed here. So the line P is our first graph, the one with this one, line P. I'll just need to draw this, the crossing of the x-axis, the y-intercept is 55/9, okay, and the gradient is negative, so it's actually sloping down like this. Okay, this is line of P, and this is the intersection, 55/9. And then the next one here is the line of Q, positive gradient, okay, 4/3, but the y-intercept is negative 26/3, so it's on the negative side. Okay, in that case I want to move this a little bit up there. Maybe, you know what, maybe we need to move this down a little bit more, like this, and then negative 88, 2/3. Negative 26/3, I got the gradient going up, so it should be like this. This is line of Q. The intersection is 26/3. There. Explain why ABCD is a trapezium. Okay, I need to find the points first. The line of P intersects the y-axis at point B, so this is B. And then line Q intersects the y-axis at point C, so this is C. Then, okay, explain why ABCD is a trapezium. Okay, they say that point A is 5,5, okay? Almost forget about that piece of information. So 5,5 should be somewhere around here, a little bit lower than 55/9. It's also on the line of P, by the way, so I just put it down over there. Okay? And then the line Q intersects x equals 5 at point D. Okay, they say about line Q intersecting the x equals 5. X equals 5 is actually just a vertical line, like this. This is x equals 5. So it will intersect the line Q over here, and they call it the point of D. Okay, this one earlier was point A. Yeah, explain why ABCD is a trapezium. We have to explain about the property of a trapezium. It must be a four-sided figure, and then you have two parallel sides. You can explain to them that the y-axis, okay, is actually parallel to the line of x equals 5. Okay, both of them are vertical, and both of them contain the point AD and the point BC. More like the line AD and the line BC lah, actually. Okay, hence they are actually parallel, and therefore this ABCD is a four-sided polygon. Okay, you can call it quadrilateral, where you have two parallel sides. Okay, state the distance between the two parallel sides. Alright, that's actually not hard. From here to here is actually 5 units. Yeah, basically it's just the distance between the line to the axis. Okay, the line of AD to the y-axis. And then find the area of this figure. Oh, by the way, here is actually 5, -2 lah. They actually mentioned that. Oh wait, they didn't mention it. Okay, I actually got this answer earlier. To get this point D, okay, I'm going back to the line of Q, which is 3y equals 4x minus 26. Sub in x equals 5, and you'll get y as -2. So this is 5, -2. Okay, so to find the area of the trapezium, Need to sum the two parallel lines, the line of AD, 7 units, plus by the line of BC. Horrible. I need to find the line of BC first. It's just, this one is negative. 55/9 plus by 26/3. You're gonna get, okay, press calculator, I got this. Okay, anyways, that's the other length. Put it down here. Sum the two lines, multiply by the height, which is 5 units, because the height of the trapezium, right? Divide by 2. Okay, press in calculator, you're gonna get 54/4/9. Another horrible answer. Yeah, this paper is really not not so keen in giving you a good numbers. Huh? Alright, next question 6. Okay, this one here is a properties of circle. Okay, in that case I'll have to draw this figure, and I hope it's not so bad because I can only like estimate how the picture is. Alright, please skip a few rounds because I need time to actually draw my graph. Wow, that's so many lines. Do I miss anything? I hope not. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. Oh, okay, there are two parallel lines here. I don't draw it parallel, I guess, but it should be good enough. 35 degree here, and then 48 degree there. Okay, so that's the picture. For anything additional, I'm going to use another color. Alright, first question. Find the angle of BED. BED. This is the angle BED, I guess. But how do we get it? Let's think. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, I got the wrong picture. Let me fix it. I draw wrongly because they actually have the line like this, by right? Yes. Okay, so there's a diameter AD. Alright, yeah. Okay, then I think this is a little bit more friendlier. 35 degree here, and then 48 degree there. Okay, back to the angle of BED. Okay, I know a few things that we can use. For example, AD is a diameter, so this is actually 90 degree. Alright, I want BED though. Okay, if I want to find BED, I need to find out the small angle here. Then I just take 90 minus by that. Okay, so first of all, I found the BED to be 90 degree. Okay, then how do we actually get there? Okay, can't really get directly. I'll just find this angle first, which is, part of the triangle AED, right? Just take 180 minus 90 minus 35. You'll get 55 here. I don't know whether it helps, but I know. These two lines parallel. The line BE and the line CD are parallel. So I can remember this formula from Sec 1, the one that looks like a letter U. Alright, interior angle formula they call it. If you sum the two angles there, you will get 180 degree. So BED plus by 55 plus by 48, okay, will be 180 degree. So then to get the BED, I just need to minus it away. I'll get 77 degree. Alright, so apparently I don't need the small angle just now, the AEB. Alright, so let's just ignore that. Okay, so that's the part A. Next, part B, I want to find the angle of BCE. BCE, I want this angle here. Okay, let's see, how do I get there? By the way, this one is 77, right? Found this one already. So, okay, I think I'll need to find piece by piece. Okay, take a look at the BCDE. It's actually a cyclic quadrilateral, such that it's a quadrilateral that is on the perimeter of the circle. Opposite angle sum to 180. Okay, with that, I can find the angle of BCD as 180 minus 77. Okay, and that will be 103 degree. So this angle here, the entire thing is 103 degree. Alright, okay, that's nice. We still haven't found BCE yet, but if you can find the angle of ECD, you just need to take 103 minus by this ECD, and then we are done. Okay, but then how do you get that angle? Alright, I actually found it. The angle of ECD is quite simple. It's actually 35 degree. Okay, this is actually by the angle in the same segment. Okay, the one that looks like a bow tie. Okay, let me point it out for you. Alright, this one here, yeah, looks like a bow tie. We call it the angle in the same segment. So that's a 35 degree there. Hence, to find out the BCE, the angle is 103, the entire being, minus by 35. You'll get 68 degree. Anyway, next is question C. The radius of the circle is 5 cm. Calculate the area of the major sector OAEDC. Okay, so the radius is 5, that's cool. OAEDC. Huh, are they really asking for such a weird area? Oh, the major sector, oh my. Okay, the major sector. The major sector that they actually meant, okay, bear with me, is actually very weird. It's actually this entire thing over here. Okay lah, maybe not so weird, it's just that there are so many lines, it's actually quite difficult to focus on one objective. Alright. Okay, anyway, before we begin to dissect that angle, I'm going to add a little bit. Okay, because this is sector, so it's crucial that we have the angle in the sector. Okay, and I have found out what we need to do. I need to find out the angle of AOC. Okay, now the angle AOC is very simple. It's actually 48 multiplied by 2. Alright, and what is that? So, this is the minor of AOC, by the way. Yeah, this is actually angle in the center is twice of angle in the perimeter. Take a look that ADC is the angle in the perimeter. Okay, and AOC is angle in the center. That's why I just times it by 2. Okay, but for the major sector, I just need to take 360 minus by 96, and that will be 264 degree. The radius is 5, so okay, that's cool. The area of the sector is therefore 264 over 360 times by pi r square, and that will be 57.6 centimeters square. Alright, that's cool. That's question 6. Next is question 7. There are 4 terms of a sequence, and they are actually in a fraction. 1 over 2, 5 over 4, 9 over 6, 13 over 8, and 17 over 10. Oh, wait a minute. I actually copied down my answer on that part. Okay, I'll just cancel it. Anyway, they only give you 4 terms. The 5th term, we are supposed to find it ourselves. Okay, should be quite easy. You see that the numerator here is just a consistent plus by 4. So that the next one should be 17. Okay, whereas the denominator is consistent plus by 2, hence is 17/10. Next, part B, and perhaps the little bit of difficult part. Okay, find out Tn. Okay, where Tn is actually the certain term of the sequence. Example, you want to find the fifth term of the sequence. That means to say you are looking for T5. Okay, now formula of a sequence. Okay, let's find it. Let's take a look at the numerator first. The numerator is about plus by 4, and therefore it will be a plus by 4n. Just need to do this. Okay, whereas the denominator is plus by 2, so you need to put down plus by 2n. Okay, it's actually not that difficult, right? But we haven't finished yet. Okay, there is a number that behind the plus 4n and plus 2n. Okay, and that number is when you actually imagine that these numbers, let me move a little bit, go back one turn. Okay, if you go back one turn, that is you minus by 4, you're gonna get negative 3. Likewise, when you go back by one turn, you're gonna get 0. Okay, obviously there is no such thing as negative 3 over 0. Okay, I'm just saying hypothetically. Okay, and you see that because the numerator go back, you get negative 3, the number here should be negative 3. Likewise, for the denominator, if you go back, you need to get 0. So then I just put 0 here. 0 plus 2n, or just 2n basically. Yeah, so the answer is negative 3 plus by 4n over 2n. That's all. Part C. The difference between two consecutive terms is Tn plus 1 minus Tn. Show that D equals blah blah blah. Okay, so what is this? Okay, this is a little bit unusual. Tn plus 1, okay, minus by Tn. But what is Tn plus 1? You see, this is actually the Tn, okay, because you are actually having x, having n in it. If I put T5, then I will just put negative 3 plus by 4 times 5 plus by 2 times 5. Okay, that's how the formula works. So when they actually ask for Tn plus 1, then what does that mean? Simply replace all the variable with n plus 1. Okay, I suppose not so well-known approach for this kind of question. To be honest, I mean, this is like a common concept in JC. Yeah, so I think this method is, this question here in particular, some people will not know how to proceed. Okay, or maybe even plenty that doesn't know how to proceed. Yeah, then you just need to make the same denominator. Okay, so like this. Then just simplify, expand and simplify. Okay, I'll just fast forward. You're gonna get 3 over this. Okay, shown lah. Okay, because the question is about show anyways. Explain why the difference between the two consecutive terms of the sequence is always less than 1. The difference is always less than 1. Okay, this question, part C, is actually asking about the difference, right? So we actually got the difference already. Okay, this is the expression of the difference, D. Okay, then the question asks you to explain why it is always less than 1. Okay, tell them that n, okay, is actually the term. Okay, and the term always have to be greater than or equals 1, and also must be whole number. I mean, like term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, there is no such thing as term negative and term fraction. Okay, so n must be equals to 1 or more than that. Okay, so to speak, if we have the difference, okay, as 3 over 2 times by 1 times by 2, okay, for n equals 1, I'll get the difference to be 3 over 4. Okay, the difference is 3 over 4 when n is 1. Tell them when n is actually 2, you'll get this, which is 1 over 4. Okay, so for the term 2, the difference is actually even less when n equals 2. When you increase your n to 3, for example, when n equals 3, I'm going to get 1 over 8. This is a pattern that you see that the difference are actually going to be lower and lower and lower. Explain to them that as the n actually gets larger, I mean you can actually only get n equals 1 or larger than that, right? So if you put n even more, your difference is just going to be even smaller than 1. The biggest difference you can get is 3/4. And as you keep progressing, the difference is just getting smaller and smaller. Hence, it's impossible to have the difference to be more than 1. The difference is always less than 1. Okay? You have to, well, explain about this. Okay? Next, question 8. Okay, this is a common last topic that is not tested. But, you know, who knows, 2022, they're going to be testing this. So let's try. Okay, the question tells you about the position vector of OR and also the position vector of OS. Find a vector that represents the translation from point R to S. So this is basically asking for the vector RS, how you go from R to S. So this is RO plus OS, or that is negative OR plus by OS. Sum the two vectors together. Okay, let me just get it as 7 and negative 6. Okay, if you try them one by one, you will get this number. Okay, so you can try yourself, it should be quite simple. The magnitude of RS. The magnitude is a symbol like this, so you just need to do a Pythagoras theorem. You're gonna get 9.22, 3SF. Next, part 2. They let you know that the position vector of t, so to speak, vector OT. Okay, if they tell you position vector is, therefore you need to write down as O something. And then the length of ST is actually 10. Find the possible values of K. Interesting. Okay, I want to find the vector of ST. I only know the length, but I want the vector. SO plus OT, or that is negative OS plus OT, or that is negative of this plus by OT. You're gonna get K minus 3 and then 8. Okay, so the length of ST is actually a Pythagoras. So 10 equals to root of K minus 3 bracket square plus by 8 square. Okay, square both sides, you're gonna get some kind of a quadratic then. Okay, then the last thing you need to do is just solve for K. Now, since we are running out of space, I don't want to put it in the next page. It's just solving of quadratic. And I believe that you are very much proficient about this. Okay, learn it in Sec 2 and Sec 3. In any case, you'll get the value of K as negative 3 or 9. Okay, solving quadratic. Yeah, in any case, yeah, you just need to actually do that. Or, actually, I just realized something. I can put this as K minus 3 bracket square plus 64. Move the 64 to the other side. You're gonna get 36 here. Yeah, the next thing you do, you just need to square root both sides. So you got 6 equals K minus 3. Oh, put plus minus. Alright, because you're just rooting the equation. You need to do that. Alright, so that's question part 2. Oh, that's actually still question A, huh? I don't know. This one is actually 1B. Okay, then now is... okay, I think the numbering is actually quite weird. But this is a question that the question gives you some kind of parallelogram. It is a parallelogram. Okay, then they have some kind of a line over here. This is G. ABCD is a parallelogram. Then they give you the ratio. AF to AB is 1 to 2. Okay, there's F here. This one is F, 1 to 2. Then there's a G. BG to GC is 3 to 1. Like this. AD is P. The vector of AD is P. And then the vector of AG is Q. Express CD as simple as possible in terms of P and Q. Okay, I found the vector CD by taking, okay, there's actually a lot of route you can take. I will take CG plus by GA plus by AD. You know, it's like connecting the dots. CG is just 1/4 of CB, okay, because of the ratio. GA is the same thing as negative AG. And then AD is Q. Okay. Now, CB is the same thing as DA. Because you see the direction C to B and D to A. They are exactly the same length and same direction, so I can replace it. Whereas AG is P. Sorry, AG is Q. Well, that means to say that the Q is going to cancel. Oh, wait a minute. I typo. This one I meant to write P. Okay. And then, well, the last thing is DA, which is actually negative AD. AD itself is P. So I got negative P over 4 minus Q plus P. I got 3/4 P minus Q. Done. Next, part 2. H is the point such that DH equals to GF. Understand? Okay, let me add another color here. So let's just put a GF here, like this. Then I just copy it down and then I just put it down here. So to speak, this is the point F. Okay, for illustration only. Yeah, DH equals to GF. DH and H, huh? Okay, I name it wrong. Yes. Express AH. Alright, so I just take AD plus by DH, right? Connecting the dots. Simplest way to do it. And how about AD? AD is actually P, right? We found it already. And then DH, well, we don't have DH, but we can say that DH is equal to GF since they are parallel and the same direction. Okay, so let's try to break down GF. I just take it as GB plus by BF. And then GB is 3/4 of CB. This one is similar again like last time. BF is 2/3 of BA. Okay, so yeah, this is gonna be a little bit ugly. Now we do the same method just like earlier. CB is actually the same as DA, okay? And then DA is negative AD. So then in the end, it's just a negative P over here. And then how about BA? Okay, this is a little bit annoying, DA. BA. Oh, okay. Luckily, not luckily, this is actually, I think they designed it that way. BA is the same as CD. Okay, take a look at the lines and the direction. BA and CD are the same direction. So I can replace it. Okay, and that is actually the answer from the previous part. So then I just need to copy. And then simplify all of this. You're gonna get 5/8P minus by half of Q. Okay, that's quite a question, I guess. The picture, yeah. Okay, next question, question 9. Alright, this question here is very difficult for me to solve because I really can't draw it as nice as what the question is giving you. So I just draw an example of how it looks like. Endpoint is 50. Okay, let's just put a line over here. And I'll just put this as a dot. Okay. Then I'm going to put some kind of a line that looks like this. Yeah, and then the top number is 500 lah, so all the way to 500. Oopsie. Okay, so this is about the recorded number of hours worked in 1 week by 500 employees. I guess then the vertical is the employees, 500 employees, right? And in that case, the horizontal is the hours worked. Okay, cool. Then what the question asks you? Use the curve to estimate the median hours. Alright, this is just, I'm just teaching you how to do it in case you don't know. To find out the median, you just need to find the middle of the whole population. There are 500 in this story. So the 250 is your benchmark. Then you just need to lay down the number on the horizontal part. Okay, yeah, according to what I actually got is around 41.6. Next, interquartile range. I'll use a blue color for this. This is Q3 minus by Q1. That is the 75% of the whole population. You take 500 times by 0.75. You got 375 around here. And also down there is 125. And do the same thing again. Just need to rely on the location. Okay, so that will be around 44 here and 39.6. And you just minus them together, you got 4.4. Next, part 2. In 2017, the average number of paid hours worked in a week in Singapore was some amount. Okay, the average number. Okay, so you want to find out how many percentage of the employee who actually work more than 45.1 hours. Okay, 45.1 hours. Alright, you need to locate the place. Okay, I need to use a different color. I use pink color. Let's just say that this is 45.1 hours. Then you need to go up here and then locate around here. Alright, yeah, so then you find out what's the new number here. You should get 420. Okay, so up to 420. Alright, the question asks you who work more than this. Okay, so 500 minus by 420, that is around 80 people, right, who actually work more than these hours. Divide by 500 times by 100%. 16%, that's the answer. Next, the company wants to reduce the working hours by 3. Describe the effect of the change you will have. Okay. Everyone will reduce the hours of work by 3 hours. So to speak, those who are actually working very hard 50 hours a week, we only work for 47 hours. And thus, every single person. Okay, every single one will reduce by 3. Of course, I don't think those for 0 hours, those who work for 0 hours will become negative 3 hours. I don't think that's the context of the question. Okay, but well, simply what they are actually going to have is the shift of the graph by 3 hours to the left. Okay, I mean, well, if you just follow the question, okay, let me use a orange color. You reduce by 3 units so that the 50 hours becomes at 47 hours here, right? And so does everyone going to move by 3 units, move by 3 units, move by 3 units. All of them are going to move by 3. So that if you actually point down everything again, it's gonna be like this. Oopsie. Yeah, anyway, like that. Okay, so well, simply the graph will like shift to the left by 3 units. Okay, that's the question part 3. Next, a small business has 60 employees. One of the 60 employees is selected. The probability that it is a man working part-time. Okay, and you know what, they give us some kind of a table, so I think I'm going to use it. Men, women, women, women. So this is about part-time and full-time. Okay, so what we know is full-time 5 men out of 16 employees. Okay, the probability that man is working part-time is 1/8. That means to say 1/8 times by 16 equals 2. So a man that is working part-time, there are 2 of them. 2 of the 16 employees are selected at random. The probability that they are both women working full-time is 1/8. And you know what? I think I'm gonna need more space, so I'm going to move this. Yeah. Okay, so now the story says 2 of the 16 employees, 2% are taken. The probability that you have women working full-time twice in a row equals 1/8. Okay, women that is working full-time, let's just say it's actually here, let's call it X. Okay, there are X amount of women who are actually working full-time. So the probability will work like this: X over 16 times by X minus 1/15. Okay, remember that when you take 2% like that, okay, once you take 1, you will actually reduce the whole population by 1 unit. Okay, that's why you need to put X minus 1/15. Okay, yeah, then you just need to cross multiply this. X squared minus X minus 30 equals 0. So X will be 6 or -5, which actually doesn't make sense. So there are 6 over here. Okay, and since the total employees are actually 16, then the last number here is just 16 minus 2 minus 5 minus 6. There will be 3 of them. Alright, on to the last question. Okay, this is another picture. So okay, I just need to draw the simple version of it. I can't really draw well quickly, so yeah. Okay, so got something like a mast over here. This is point A, point O, point B. This is point E. Then there is actually a line here, here, here. Point C, point D. Okay. So yeah, they actually also have the length. I'll just put another color. Length of OB is 35. AB is 30. Not into scale, obviously. BC is 20. CD is 20. DE is 20. And OA is 48.3. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Oh, they also put some kind of an angle of X. It's like this. This angle here. This angle here is X. Small angle. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Okay, each of them are actually cable. Okay, I mean cable OA, cable OC, and cable OD. So OA, okay, let me just separate this question. OA has diameter of 64 millimeter. OC and OD diameter of 44 meter. I think this is all the information that I'm going to need. I mean, there's actually another kind of a table and whatnot, but let's just ignore it for now. I need you to refer to it for a few part of the question later on though. So yeah, in any case, question A. The gradient of the bridge deck is such in the ratio of vertical over horizontal. So the gradient is 1/10. Okay, use the ratio to show that x equals 5.7. Alright. Okay, so now let's take a look of the triangle that actually contains x. Okay, I'm going to draw slightly larger so you all can see what is going on here. This angle here is x degree. Okay, and then the gradient of the, this slope is 1/10. Now gradient is rise over run, so technically they are saying that this is 1 unit, this is 10 units. Okay, you need to prove that x is 5.7. The key for this is to tell them that tangent x equals to opposite over adjacent. Yeah, to solve your x here, I just need to do tangent inverse, and that will be 5.7 degree. Okay, that's question A. Next, question B. Show that OC is 38.5. We have only a few things here. Okay, let's take a look at the OBC. I'm going to draw OBC. OB a little bit inclined. C here, and then put it like this. This angle is x, which is 5.7 degree. This is 35, and this one is 20. I want to find the length of OC. Okay, so if I actually see it like this is actually supposed to be 90 degree, right? If I just put it all the way perpendicular. Okay, meaning to say then the angle of BC, right, is just 90 degree minus 5.7, which is 84.3 degree. Okay, that is the angle here, 84.3 degree. If you want to find the length of OC, I'm just going to do cosine rule. OC square equals BC square, which is 20, plus by OB square, minus by 2 times 20 times 35, times by cosine of 84.3. Then just do your stuff and you'll get the OC, which should be shown to be 38.5 meter. Okay, I believe you'll get it. Just need to get there. Alright, so with that, I'm just going to add this 38.5 on the OC for the future use. Next, the bridge engineer has specified a maximum of 2.1 tons for the total mass of the 3 cables. That's heavy. 1 ton is 1 ton. Now I'm hungry. Alright, so unfortunately not the 1 ton that you can eat, the 1 ton that is actually heavy here. So we need to find the total mass of the 3 cables. Okay, so the 3 cables length, let's find it first. Oh wait, no, cannot. This is where the importance of the OA and the OCOD that they tell you the diameter. So let's look for the OA. It's technically a cylinder, right? So the volume is pi r square multiplied by height. Okay. Wait a minute. Take a look at the table that they give you here. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of product code. I don't think that's actually important. Okay, I'm not going to write down the table in my answer because there's too many things. But there are actually quite an important information here. Okay. Regarding about the diameter of the cable and about the design load, or that is the unit mass as well. Okay, there's some kilonewton here for those who are taking physics. Although I believe that it doesn't really matter, right? Yeah, anyway, since OA is actually 44 millimeter, therefore the unit load is, the unit per mass is 10.8 kilogram per meter. Oh wait, OA is not the OA is the 64 lah. So the 64 is 23.2. Okay, then OB and OD is the lighter one. Wait, not OB lah. OB is the rope OC and OD, I mean. Yeah, it's the 44 meter, so it's 10.8 kilograms per meter. Okay, this is the unit mass that they actually say. Okay, okay, I just realized that OD is not yet found. We need to find the length of OD before we can continue. So let's try to draw again. I'm going to use OB, D. This angle is again the 5.7. And therefore this is still the 84.3. We still use the same number. This is 35. And then OD is unknown. Okay, so to find the length of OD, again I'm going to do a cosine rule. The length of BD is what? 20 plus 20. So this is 40 meter. Work out your OD, you'll get it as 50.5 meter. Okay, so let's list down all the lengths of the cable that we found so far. That's OD, OC is 38.5 meter, and OA being 48.3. Okay, so how do we do this? Now take a look. These units that we have is kilogram per meter, kilogram per meter. So I feel that if we multiply these numbers with the length, okay, like example 23.2 kilogram per meter, right? I can write like this. Okay, multiply by 48.3 meter. You'll actually cancel the meter. Okay, giving you some kind of a weight. Now, this I believe is actually the amount of the weight that the cable can actually hold on. Okay, a maximum of 2.1 tons, but we just need to find out whether it actually exceeds that amount. Okay, so what we need to do is to multiply all the length that we have here with the specification of the units that we are actually being provided. Okay, so plus this with 10.8 kg times by OD plus by 10.8 kg times by OC. Yeah, sum everything together. You're gonna get 2081.829 kg. Yeah, let's just put like this lah. Pretty much the same thing. Make it into tons, divide by 1000. You got 2.08 tons. Tonnes. Yeah. Alright, that's it. Which is lower than 2.1 tons. So definitely it's actually it is actually below the maximum lah. Hence it actually meets the specification. Okay, tell them about the conclusion you can gather from this. Alright, that's it for today's question. Quite lengthy and actually very time consuming. If you are watching this, I believe it's around 1 hour plus. And I guess this is because that I need to actually list down everything one by one without a picture. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. Okay, I hope this actually helps. If you need more help, if you want to clarify something, you just give a comment below. And also if you have some more questions, or maybe you are actually want to prepare for O-level this year and you want a last minute tuition, you can actually also try to contact me. Leave a comment below. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of private class, so I only take like a few students if I still have the time. Okay, until then, I'll see you again on the next video. Bye bye.